So efficient was the machinery of British propaganda during the First World War, fueled by a policy of total censorship, that according to Philip Knightley, Dr. Joseph Goebbels based Nazi propaganda in World War II on the British model. During the Second War in Britain, censorship was tight, except for those American correspondents who often painted what one of them called a hearts and flowers picture of all Britons pulling together. This, of course, was true up to a point, but there was another side, such as the efforts of the well-off to send their children abroad, and the support among some MPs for negotiations with Hitler. During the Blitz, money and position could buy you a better place in a better shelter, and those jolly Cockney images of life in the underground were not completely true. The tube became a terrible stinking slum and a health hazard. Not a single British correspondent was at Dunkirk, and yet a romantic version of eyewitness heroics obscured for many years the full story, a story of military incompetence and disaster. The Korean War broke out in 1950 and was described by the journalist James Cameron as a prep school for Vietnam. It was a racist war, and many correspondents were under instructions to play down the suffering of the Korean people.
They are a hardy race and can exist on a much lower sustenance level than white troops.
Instead, the war was reported, by and large, like the World War that had preceded it, as a boy's own annual saga of good versus evil.
Air and ground, we bring you the most dramatic air attack pictures of the war.
Dramatic, yes, but what was the truth about Korea? During the war, Robin C. Miller, an editor of the United Press, said this: "There are certain facts and stories from Korea that editors and publishers have printed which were pure fabrication. Many of us who sent the stories knew they were false, but we had to write them because they were official releases, even though the people responsible knew they were untrue."
New deadly weapon, belly tanks loaded with napalm, also known as jellytol. It's a highly inflammable jelly which is fused and dropped to spray flaming death on enemy foxholes and guerrilla positions.
Napalm was a new American weapon, and Rennie Cutforth of the BBC believed it important to describe its use. Over this scene of silent desolation, he reported, crept a reassuring smell that immediately took me back to Sunday dinners in Britain, the smell of roast pork, for that's what a napalmed human being looks like. This dispatch was never used, and the BBC never satisfactorily explained why.
And rockets hiss down with terrifying accuracy.